That is what people have to do to make the Bible say anything they want. They have to change the definition of words. They have to lie about what the text says. And when you're allowed to lie about what the text says, well, of course you can make it say whatever you want. Of course.
Well,
but how is that the book's fault? How is that the book's fault?
Because the book has been translated a million different ways to say a million different things a million different times over. We all know the history of the Bible.
No, it hasn't. You said that in every conversation we've had, never proven it once.
That the Bible's been retranslated and to say different things.
Yeah, you've never proven that. Yeah, you've never proven that. You've never provided evidence of that. You just say it. It's another one of those dogmas that you take on faith, but you can't actually prove.
Yeah, I've run across a few things, actually.
Sure, then provide them.
Okay,
shouldn't be that hard, right?
I ran across one thing one time.
And now it's just we ran across one thing one time.
And even if it were proven one way or the other, you would say that was a particular situation or circumstance, and that I would need to come up with more, and it would be a never-ending list of
for the kind of claim that you're making. Yes, you do, because you're not claiming that someone. No, because you're not claiming that someone mistranslated the book one or two times here and there. If that was your claim, yeah, I'd agree with you. Yeah, we have the evidence. We have the manuscript evidence of people making some bad translations here and there. Your claim is that it's been so distorted that you can't trace the originals. That is something that you would need a boatload of manuscripts to prove.
And nobody's able to come up with a boatload of manuscripts to prove that. Because,
brother, we got over 5,200 manuscripts in Greek alone. The number swells to over 25,000 if we include everything in that Middle East area. Yes, we have a wealth of manuscripts. So, out of 25,000 plus, can you find me something different?
I am not a biblical scholar. It would take a person of a higher educational caliber than I could ever hope to achieve, and more years than I have to spend to find all these little idiosyncrasies that you're asking me to make an account for on a book that I don't believe exists.
I'm just saying that that's what you would need to do to prove your claim. Otherwise, you have to back down and say, that's what I believe by faith without actually researching it. That's what you have to say to be consistent. No, but you won't say that, but that's what you would have to say.
Well, you're trying to pigeonhole me into a response that's beyond my educational caliber.
I'm not pigeonholing you into anything. I'm teaching you the minimum that you have to do to be able to say what you said with any kind of certainty.
Well, I know it's true within my own life. I don't need to go through rigors and rigors and rigors of study to prove that your claims are false. I mean, it's not up to me to make the proof. I don't have to research to know that I'm true. Okay, if you get to do that, then so do I, if we're being fair. I got eyes in my head. I can see the world for what it truly is.
Okay, and I can also see the vast evidence of our manuscript chain is that they copied and translated this with extreme precision down to an infinitesimal degree, such that I can just...
Human beings are corruptible.
They are corruptible. That doesn't mean everything that they do is corrupt. You have to show evidence of that.
If they've done it well enough, then they got away with it.
So you're suggesting that manuscripts, every single manuscript, tens of thousands of manuscripts, in different languages in different places, all were changed to say the same thing, because none of our manuscripts are different. They all say the same thing. So they were all changed to say the same thing in, 10 plus different languages across multiple continents in an era without planes, technology, or Wi-Fi?
It's a global conspiracy, don't you know?
What you just said is a conspiracy for the gullible, yes, and I'm not gullible enough to believe it, thank you.
Well, in my rationale and way of thinking, it's been something that's been, like I was saying before, it's the opiate of the masses. The best way to control these people
it's not the opiate
is
of the masses.
to continue to manipulate them.
Your belief that the Bible has been manipulated is the true opiate of the masses. You have no proof of it. You can't demonstrate it. And every time I ask you for proof, you say I don't have proof and I don't have to demonstrate it. That sounds like faith to me. No. But you want to act like you don't have faith. It's insane.
In the imaginary man, it's like trying to say there's an elephant in my room. And I won't believe that there's an elephant in my room, even though the elephant's right there in my room. I just got to believe in order to see it. The book is full of inaccuracies.
Such as?
You said it yourself. You said it yourself.
No, I didn't say that myself, actually.
What
did I say? Quote me.
There's been documented cases of inaccuracies.
There's been documented cases of people in some areas and in some places mistranslating the text. How do we know that? Yes. Because we have accurate copies of the originals to compare their mistranslations to. So again, show me these errors. Because if I don't have the originals, how can I know it was mistranslated, you dingus? I need the originals to be able to know that.
It's the same problem we have with car wrecks and victories won in battles and what have you. There's many accounts as to what happened in a story of any particular situation.
Show me the contradictions. Don't give me your theories. Show me the contradictions.
The contradictions in the Bible?
That's what we're talking about. We're not talking about the contradictions of Plato or Aristotle. Give me the contradictions in the Bible.
The contradictions in the Bible?
You said there were many.
New International Version?
I don't really care what version. It doesn't matter to me.
Okay.
For the most part.
Contradictions in the Bible. There's a large study been done on this.
Sure. So give me one. If you have a large buffet, it should be easy to give me one. I go to Golden Corral, they have a bunch of food. They don't struggle to give me food because they have a bunch of it. If you got a bunch of contradictions, give me one. Gaslight me into saying, we have a bunch of them, but can't give me one.
Contradictions in the Bible. The accounts of Judas's death, different genealogies for Joseph, conflicting details regarding the crucifixion.
You got to explain how any of those are contradictions. Just going to state them, but not explain it?
The death of Judas, Matthew chapter 27, verse 5. Judas hanged himself, while Acts states that he fell headlong and his bowels gushed out.
Where's the contradiction? No, slow down. Where's the contradiction?
He had two different ways of dying.
The book of Acts doesn't actually say that killed him, though. It just says that happened to his body. Acts never says that that's what killed him. So, no contradiction.
Oh, so bowels gushing out of one's body is not enough to be considered death?
Bowels gushing out of a corpse that's already dead from hanging is not the death of that same corpse.
I'd say that corpse is pretty dead if his bowels are hanging out of his body.
Yeah, but it's not a contradiction. He hanged himself to death, and at some point the hanged body fell, and when it fell, because it was fragile from being rotten, the bowels gushed out. It's not a contradiction. So next up,
I could see how that could happen. The genealogy of Jesus, which is something I visited on earlier in the discussion, visits Jacob as Joseph's father, while Luke 3 names Heli as his father. So a genealogy inconsistency. I don't know if you want to touch on that one.
No, I don't mind touching on it because I've done somewhat extensive research on the genealogies of the Bible too. Not all of them, but at least these ones in the Gospel. Yeah, they're tracing two different lines, but more to the point, in Hebrew genealogy, more to the point, because they are tracing two different lines, but more to the point, right? In Hebrew, they will use father sometimes for grandfather. So I'm like, depending on, I mean, really just anyone that was in that line. It doesn't really matter how many generations you jump back to. That's why you'll even say, like, you know, Abraham is the father of David. You'll see that in Matthew's genealogy. And it's like, well, there were a whole bunch of people between Abraham and David. Yes, but it was common to only mention the prominent people or the people that were considered necessary for the point you were trying to make for that particular genealogy. So, no, that one's definitely not necessarily a contradiction. That's a wild one.
The crucifixion robe. Jesus was described as wearing a scarlet robe in Matthew 27:28 and a purple robe in John chapter 9 verse 2, apparently.
That's very true. That is very true. Not a contradiction, though, depending on the shade. And, you know, the time, considering that the dude was beaten to a bloody pulp before having the robe put on him. Yeah, at a certain point, that purple probably was red, since you put it on a guy with his back ripped open.
Soldiers at the tomb. Mark chapter 16, verse 5 mentions one young man at the empty tomb, while the other Gospels mention 2 angels.
How is that a contradiction? What?
Well, Mark chapter 16 verse 5 mentions one young man at the empty tomb, while the other Gospels mention 2 angels at the tomb instead.
How is it a contradiction? How could
because
both of
one
those...
is a young man and the other one is 2 angels?
Let me ask you again. How could both of those things not be true at the same time? Does 2 angels being there mean that one young man can't be there? Does one young man being there mean that 2 angels can't be there? Especially when you consider the testimony of the Old Testament, which is that angels appear as men when they're not trying to show up in their full glory. So who's to say that that one young man wasn't one of the 2 angels? Like, what are we talking about? No, how is this a contradiction?
Well, I mean, it's a matter of perception, I suppose.
No, it's a matter of definition. Contradiction is defined as 2 things that cannot be true at the same time. If you give me 2 things that are just unlikely, I can grant you if something's unlikely, maybe. But unlikely is not the same thing as a contradiction, and I don't think any of those things you mentioned are even unlikely.
Okay, let's go off script here and go back to the whole Christmas thing where everybody's freezing to death in December to give birth to this child and dragging him across the country. The whole you know, how Jesus came to be routine is quite a far stretch, to say the least. I don't know if it's a contradiction from one thing to another, but like they just abandon reality on that one.
What do you mean? Like, what are you talking about specifically?
Okay, from what I understand about it, you know, Mary and Joseph had to follow this one-time only tax thing and go down to Bethlehem to give birth to a child in the middle of December, which would freeze them to death. And that
who said it was December? Where are you getting December from? That's what I'm confused about. What in the text tells you December or gives you hints of December?
This is true. That's the problem I have with it. That's a contradiction.
It's not a contradiction in the Bible. I didn't ask you for contradictions in customs. I asked you for contradictions in the Bible. Didn't ask you for customs. What in the text indicates the 25th? If anything, everything in the text indicates it was one of the warmer months. The shepherds are out with the animals. Like, what are we talking about?
Well, and the customs that they follow, everybody says December. Well, you know.
And to be honest, you know, I'm not one to even like defend modern Christianity, but most of the Christians I know, no, it's not December 25th. It's just the day that we celebrate it. Because, you know, the New Testament never does command us to celebrate the birth of Jesus. It's not wrong to do it, it's just not commanded, which means that you're free to kind of make the tradition how you want to make it. Just don't do anything that's contrary to the Bible. And it would be contrary if you taught people that Jesus was born on December 25th. And I know, before you say it, some places do teach that. They're wrong to teach it.
I'm not with them, Routine.
I was actually, well, I don't know why you're so mad at that. Sometimes you like that, sometimes it annoys you. But I was actually going to say, not all churches teach that, so it's not a problem. But more to the point, the Bible doesn't teach it. And that's why it's not a problem for Christianity. Because the Bible doesn't teach it. Not that it would anyway, because Luke was written before the Gregorian calendar system was invented. So, of course, you're not going to see the word December in there.
Yes, which we're all subject to. Everybody says that we have a free country, but we all have to bend the knee to the Gregorian calendar. We are all subject to its rule.
You're not subject to anything. It's just everyone around you uses it. So if you want to be contrary, you got to... No, you don't. There's nothing making you. It's just...
Well, if I want to be on time, I kind of have to abide by it. Yeah.
Or you just do the work of converting whatever calendar you choose to go with to the Gregorian standard that everyone else goes to, while you personally use your own personal calendar. It's possible.
God, that is way too much work.
Sure.
It's not a real amount of work. No way in hell.
I don't disagree, but there's no one coming to your door with a sword telling you that you have to buy a Gregorian.
And
your free will is intact.
You're absolutely right. Given the unique situation I live in, I don't have to abide by anybody's calendar or go anywhere. I could just lock myself up in this little spot for the rest of my life never go by anybody's situation.
That you could.
It would be an awful lonely existence. I've done it before. I wouldn't recommend it. I've been there, done that, and I've tried the T-shirt.
Fair.
And it's one of those things that we all have our struggles with. I think the COVID thing made me terrible. I completely went to a different realm of existence with COVID that most people didn't. I took my paranoia to the nth extreme. I mean, you haven't really given me much of your backstory as far as religion goes, but I'll indulge you with some of mine. I was raised a Pentecostal prison preached by a guy who was really into the Lord and all this and that. Needless to say, he preached all the time, day and night, still does, about the virtues of Christ and what have you. When I was 14, I broke away from him and went out on the road and went out on my own. Did some self-studies in libraries and whatnot. I'll keep this focused around religion. Either way, ran across this witch, like I said, the 400-pound, 4'11" gal, and she taught me about witchcraft and the dark arts, and Hameen continued to carry on that idea of goddess worship and what have you. And I did a deep dive into it, studied it thoroughly, went through it inside and out in every way I possibly could, studied wizardry, studied metaphysics, found that it was a big road to nowhere. And then I started coming to the realization after I moved down here to Colorado that it was all a matter of nothing. It was all just a bunch of beliefs people want to go to and lean on whenever they aren't strong enough to realize how it really is, which is there is nothing. And that's depressing for a lot of people. They can't swallow that pill, and I understand why. Because it's so much easier to lean upon God for everything you got and say, oh yeah, it's a creator. We got somebody out there making the decisions for us. We don't have to take accountability for our own actions. And I started to see the Hameen's goddess worship and everybody else's God worship was kind of all covering the same bases whenever it boils down to just own up to your own shit, and be responsible for yourself. And don't blame anything you do on any outside influence other than yourself, because you're the only one you got. Not that much I can say for sure is that I'm going to die someday.
Because Christianity never teaches anyone to take accountability for their own actions. You'll never find a verse in the Bible telling you to take accountability for your own actions. I say dripping with sarcasm.
I understand, and I'll explain why I go that route, because my dad uses that crutch all the time. For every bad thing he does, it's always the devil that made me do it. And so I guess I'm jaded by the idea that...
He's lying through his teeth. And I would say that to his face. Like, I have said that to the faces of Christians that say that. Because like the Bible literally says the opposite.
Yeah, it's like do what you want, and God will forgive you, and God will continue to forgive you because like everybody does wrong, and so here's your pass on everything you're doing wrong. Maybe that's just me and my own daddy issues, but I see it over and over again. I couldn't control myself. I couldn't help myself. The devil tempted me. I've heard all these things so many times before that it's like, okay, that's the route you want to go with it. It's the same as the alcoholic route of, I was drinking and I couldn't control myself. Okay, that's just a way that I tried to go the crazy defense the one time that I did go to jail 20 years ago. And they didn't buy it, so I'm not going to buy it from anybody else. And Christianity seems like a big pass for everybody to do whatever they want to and say, oh, God forgave me for that. I'm really sorry, and life moves on without doing no crime or no time. No accountability, no responsibility. Just, God's supposed to forgive me, and you're supposed to forgive me too because you believe in God too. So you're just supposed to give me a pass like everybody else does. And whenever
No. That's weaponizing forgiveness.
Yeah,
the New Testament
and that's why
clearly teaches against that.
That's why I stick to the strong suit of atheism, is that all this stuff is malarkey, and you want to hide behind Christianity?
But my problem is every single one of your critiques the Bible makes already. So,
okay,
atheism isn't the only viewpoint that makes your same critiques with the same amount of venom and passion.
True. That's what makes me and my father great adversaries. That's what makes me and you great adversaries. Because I believe in nothing. Yeah, oh yeah. Friends, adversaries, what's the difference?
Listen, man. Listen, bro. James chapter 1, verse 13. If there's one Bible verse you should be able to agree to, it's that one.
I don't agree to anything that's written in the Bible.
Sure you don't.
But I'll look up your verse.
Sure you don't, bud. Sure you don't. You agree with the Bible that that rapists should be put to death, though. Like you agreed with that. Rapists and pedophiles. You agreed with that.
Rapists and pedophiles should be put to death, but that's not because I'm agreeing with the Bible. I'm just agreeing
I'm
with
not
common
saying
sense.
that you're agreeing with the Bible. I'm just saying that you happen to be saying the same thing the Bible says. But this is what I mean. Like you're incapable of giving the Bible any flowers on anything.
Because it's a made-up book by a whole bunch of people who had political ambitions hundreds of years ago, and they got their way. Of course, it's going to...
Political ambitions, bro. Listen, audience that hears this, at some point, he'll give me proof of this. Not today, not tonight, but at some point, he'll give me proof of this. Until then, I just got to take him on faith. Without evidence.
The Roman Catholic Church, once again, you're going to say, well, they're not with me. But the Roman Catholic Church and a lot of other believers in the Bible that held to the words of the Bible used it for political ambitions throughout the history.
You have to prove to me that the authors wrote it with political ambitions for the purpose of controlling the masses. That's your actual claim. Not that some yahoos later misappropriated it. That's what you have to prove to me, which you have not yet. The translators were obviously under control of certain political ambitions. Sure, I just have to take you by faith. You can't prove it. I just got to take you by faith.
It's easy to do. Well, right. It's not a matter of proof. It's not a matter of proving.
It's not a matter of proving. Hear
this,
people. The atheist is saying he doesn't need proof. Sounds religious to me, bro. This is amazing. This is amazing.
No, it's coming to the rational conclusion of something.
I'm coming to a rational conclusion without evidence. I'm coming to a rational conclusion without evidence. Let me say it again for the people in the back.
Nobody was there. Nobody was there to say what happened or didn't happen because nobody was there.
Let me say it again for the people in the back. I, the atheist, the paragon of reason, am coming to a rational conclusion without evidence. Okay.
Evidence is non-existent.
Okay.
Nobody was there. There's no evidence that anybody can ever prove that anybody ever did any of these things that were supposedly done.
Okay.
And you want me to prove that something was done or not done? I can't prove anything one way or the other because I wasn't there.
Yes, I want you to prove that manuscripts were tampered with. You do that by showing evidence.
How could I do that?
How could I ever bring me a manuscript that says one thing and a manuscript that says another thing, and you show me evidence that the author tampered with it.
How am I supposed to come up with these manuscripts?
Listen, this is your belief. You prove it. Don't ask me to prove your belief. Don't ask me to do that. Anyway, I was saying,
I'm saying that the book is very much fallible because there is no way to substantiate any of these things except by more substantiations by more people who are more liars and more translators that were trying to push their own agendas.
How do you know they lied?
How do
you know they lied? See, this is a circular argument. I know they lied because I know they lied.
Okay.
That's your argument. I know they lied because I know they lied. Okay. If you get to use a circular argument, Matthew 7 verse 2, with the same judgment you use, it'll be measured back to you. I get to use circular arguments too now. I don't want to, but I get to, because you got to. Anyway, like I was saying, James chapter 1, verse 13. I think you can agree with this one.
Let's look at the cherry-picked scripture you come up with.
I know it's cherry-picked because I know it's cherry-picked. I don't know what's in James chapter 1, but I know he's cherry-picking, guys. Take me by faith.
Okay,
that's what you're doing. That's what you're doing.
James chapter 2 is what you're going after, right?
Chapter 1, verse 13.
Chapter 1, verse 13.
Yep.
3. Okay, let's see what you got to say. Let no man just say to him when he is tempted, I am being tempted by God. For God cannot tempt with evil, and he tempts no one. Okay, so, I mean, I don't know what that jump-off point is, but go ahead.
I'm just saying this is one verse that I think you would agree to, or at least you wouldn't disagree with it.
That God can't be tempted?
That no one undergoing a trial should say, I'm being tempted by God. I guess if you want, to include it, you can include verse 14. Include verse 14.
Well, my question to all this is why do they have them swear to the Bible whenever they
include verse 14.
All right, let's include verse 14 just to satisfy your qualm. Let's see. 14. Okay. Oh, you thing. But each person is tempted when they are dragged away by their own evil desire and enticed. Then after the desire is conceived, it gives birth to sin, and sin, full grown, gives birth to death. I don't know what tree you're barking up here.
So the point here is that I'm showing you in the Bible, where the Bible quite literally says, don't blame the evil that you do or you are tempted to do on a spiritual power like God. That came from you. In other words, take responsibility for the sin that you are tempted to do and the sin that you do. You don't get to blame anyone else but you for the sin that you do. You telling me you can't agree with that?
But what about this whole temptation
and this is where even though he said the same thing a few minutes ago, he's going to try his best to argue against it just because the Bible said it, because I can't let the Bible have a point. This is crazy.
The very temptation of sin is a sin according to the Bible. This is one of those sins of thought, right?
No. The point here is kind of like what you were saying with your dad, right? The devil made me do it. No, he didn't. That evil desire started with you and it ended with you when you decided to, give into it. Don't blame anyone else but you. This is you. Don't pass the buck off to somebody else.
My dad does that quite often, actually.
So if you want to really have some fun with him, you should quote to him James 1, 13 to 14. It should be very fun for him to be corrected on the scripture by an atheist. Should be fun.
Yeah, it might be. But, it's one of those things, dial it back down a notch or so. Relax. Take a deep breath here.
Oh, I'm fine. This is like,
okay.
Yeah, that's how I usually talk. It's just, people say nonsense, I expose nonsense, bro.
Well, I mean, nonsense is one of those things that I can claim because I'm ignorant. And I know that nothing exists, and there's no way to prove it doesn't. And however much you want to lean on the Bible to be the go-to has-all, be-all, it works for some people, I guess. But for me, it's just a lame excuse for one's behavior.
Even though I just showed you the verse that says that you can't do that in Christianity. Amazing.
Well, I'm explaining to you my history and where I'm coming from.
Oh, okay.
To give you more understanding of where my perspective has arisen out of, It's one of those things that, people don't want to understand nothing. Nothing is not something that people feel comfortable with.
There's nothing to understand. What are you talking about? There's nothing. It's not a thing. It has no substance. It's not an idea. It's not a concept. It is nothing. Yeah. It is the absence of anything and everything. So what do you mean people can't understand it? There's nothing there to understand.
It's a simple biochemical reaction to different principles in science.
Okay. If you can convince yourself into that corner, I'll let you have it.
No. There's no proof to the contrary, except for what lies within a book that may or may not be true.
Except for all of your experiential evidence in life that you claim to go by. Yeah. Well, there's no evidence for that.
Experience has taught me that there's always some sort of something else that people want to go for, because it's not.
If everything is a biochemical reaction, why are you pissed off at pedophiles? They're just following their biochemical reactions.
Well, they need to be eliminated.
Okay, but they're not immoral. They're just defective. But they're not immoral. They're not wrong. They're not evil. Evil is not a real thing.
It's kind of like their brain's wired wrong. That's a biochemical situation. Their brain is messed up.
What do you mean wrong? What do you mean wrong? There's no such thing as wrong, because there's no such thing as right.
Okay, it's geared abnormally under a different set of conditions, which we all consider to be socially unacceptable.
There you go. Talk more like an atheist. Be consistent. You don't believe in evil. Evil doesn't exist. You would need good for that to exist, and good doesn't exist.
It's a perception, and there's a metric that people use for whether things are good or evil. My metric, my own personal metric, is it hurting somebody else? Is it causing somebody else harm, pain, physical distress?
So what? Why are people so valuable that you should be angry about their pain? They're nothing.
There's simply consequences for life. I know what you're trying to do. You're trying to guide me towards an emotional situation and dice out the words just right.
I'm not guiding you towards anything. I'm actually arguing like an atheist.
Okay.
Because that's what I used to believe. Not for that long. Because I realized, that's dumb. I don't actually believe that. I get too angry at this stuff for me to actually believe that.
That's a biochemical response to a given stimuli. I mean, that's all it is. And whenever it comes to child molesters, those are biochemical response related to that trigger.
No.
Just like you have something against rapists. You don't get to play that card.
You don't get to play that card.
You don't get to decide what cards I get to play.
You gave up that card. You don't get to decide that. You decided.
You don't get to decide whether or not I gave up that card, or whether or not I get to use whichever cards I use, because they're my cards. I decide which ones I use.
You decided that you don't get to use that card. You did, not me. You did.
What did I decide?
You decided that hours ago when you said that you couldn't go to heaven with a bunch of forgiven child molesters, presumably because the thought of it outrages you morally, not because it upset your biochemical reactions. That was the thrust of your argument hours ago. The moral outrage at it.
I did
not the biochemical outrage at it.
I did not clarify that one way or another. You are presuming that.
And now I didn't clarify it. Here's the cope. Here's the revisionist history that atheists do. Here's the dance.
Here's the way they wedge more words into the situation than what we're actually there. If you look back at the tape, look at the transcripts of what was said and what was not said.
Yeah.
I refuse to keep company with child molesters.
Yeah. Presumably,
I never explained
because it morally outraged.
That's a presumption. That's a presumption that I did not make.
Okay. So
I did not voice that presumption.
So let me ask the question: does it not morally outrage you to consider being in heaven with forgiven child molesters? Is that not morally outrageous to you?
I have a code of conduct of which I abide by.
A moral one? Or a biochemical one?
I never said it was moral.
I'm asking the question.
I never said it was amoral.
I'm asking the question. Moral or biochemical?
I know you're asking a question. And
those are the only options.
Well, if we were in heaven, there wouldn't be no biochemistry at all because our bodies would have been evaporated a long time ago. According to what heaven is, we're all spirits there, right?
You don't even know what heaven is.
We have
not read the Bible.
There's no biochemistry in heaven.
How do you know that?
You say it yourselves. You guys are caught up in spirits and getting caught away and moved on from this mortal coil.
Was Jesus, according to Christianity, hear my phrase, according to Christianity, did Jesus rise from the dead physically with a physical body?
According to Christianity, that is the fairy tale they are purporting, yes.
And according to Christianity, did Jesus ascend to heaven in that physical body?
And the rest of us didn't.
So if Jesus with his physical body is in heaven, is there physical biochemistry happening in heaven?
Well, with Jesus, according to the way you've laid out the situation, Jesus is in a physical form in heaven, according to you. Is that where I'm going with this?
Yeah, I mean, according to the Bible. I'm just teaching you what the Bible teaches.
Okay,
yeah.
So according to the Bible, it says that there is a fleshly human being sitting up there in heaven. Just one, mind you. The rest of them, except for maybe Elijah, don't have bodies. Is that what you're saying?
For now, yeah.
Okay. Well, if they don't have bodies, then they can't produce a biochemical reaction because they don't have the bio or the chemical.
I was simply addressing your claim that, according to Christianity, there's no biochemistry in heaven. Not true.
Well, there is the Jesus claim. That much I will give you, okay? If Jesus is in fact everything you say it is, then he's up in heaven in an actual physical body, according to what you read the scriptures as.
I understand that you don't believe that, but you're making an accusation. Yeah.
Okay. As long as we're clear there. Okay. And whenever it comes to the whole notion of me going to heaven is ludicrous in the first place because I'm an atheist and I don't believe in heaven in the first place. Sharing any space with a child molester is
offensive to your chemicals.
Offensive to my code of conduct.
Which derives
the code that I hold myself from my lifetime experiences.
So not your chemicals, then?
No, it has nothing to do with my chemicals. It has to do with who I am.
Separate from your chemicals.
From my experiences in life that has made me who I am.
Yeah, it's made you who you are, separate from your chemicals, right? So you're appealing to a you that is non-material, right?
The sum of my experiences has led me to the conclusion that I will absolutely never spend any time or communication or anything to do with child molesters. I don't see why that's such a hard pill to swallow for you. I mean, a lot of people believe the same thing.
That's not a hard pill for me to swallow. I'm just finding it tough for you to admit that the reason you don't is because it's morally reprehensible to you. I should think that would be really easy for you to say, but for whatever reason, you're like avoiding saying that. Yeah, it offends my morals, the thought of it, which is why I don't want to do it.
Because morals would imply that I have a soul, and I'm not going to get trapped that way.
Okay. As long as you admit it. That's all. Just admit it for the tape.
Yeah. I can see a trap whenever I see one.
That's fine.
And that's definitely a trap.
That's fine. But you got to understand, with the way that I make content, admitting the trap is my actual trap. I don't care to catch you in it.
Okay.
The actual trap is just you acknowledging the fact that I'm literally not saying this just to not get clipped, which is a form of intellectual dishonesty. In any other scenario, he would say, yeah, it's morally reprehensible to me. But because he doesn't want to give Christianity a foothold, that is the only reason he's not going to say it in this conversation. It's insane.
No, it's not. It's not. Because that's not the...
That's what you just said. I saw the trap and I avoided it.
I saw where you were going with this conversation, and I was saying, no, morality has no play in the situation. It has to do with a person's code of conduct, the experiences of life that have taught them, hey, I don't want to be around anybody like that. I don't want to see anybody like that. That doesn't take no God intellect or no set of values or morals to come to the conclusion of. It just has to do with what you have seen in life and what you've experienced in life. And what I've experienced
what the pedophile experienced in life led him to be a pedophile. Is he wrong?
It's not a matter of whether he's wrong or right. It's a matter of killing a defective unit. And that's what should be done with a defective human being, yes. A person that is a child molester should be wiped off the earth once they're found to be a child molester. That is the only form of justice that I will find acceptable in this situation.
Justice?
Yeah. Justice.
You want to stick to that word?
No, because you're going to dive it down into all kinds of little word soup and dice it out into things that I may or may not mean.
Okay, so you know, what word do you mean? You're looking... I'm just showing you that if you want to be an atheist, fine. Just give me back my stuff. Give me back my justice. That's not yours.
It's a consequence for one's actions, and I don't know how you're laying claim to the word justice, but because it means so much to you, it really doesn't matter to me. For me, it's just a matter of the consequences for the crimes are not fitting. That's what injustice means to me, you know, is that there is a problem here between...
So there's some sort of standard outside of people and above people for what people should suffer for the wrong. It's not wrong for the inadequacy that they do.
So you're defending child molesters?
I'm trying to figure out I'm trying to figure out what your standard is for saying that that certain penalties aren't enough for them, or that they need justice.
Okay.
Justice is a word that requires non-material realities to even have any sense to it. Unless you just want to change the definition of justice.
Okay, so we're disagreeing about what child molesters deserve for molesting children.
No, I think
you want to dice apart the word justice.
No, I think you and I agree on that. I just don't think you can give a real justification for why that should be what they get.
Because it destroys the lives of the children that they molest.
I know, but why death? Why not just life in prison, sequestered away from society, as many people would argue? Not me, but many people would argue, and do argue.
And so far, they are winning, because these guys get out for 2 or 3 years, they go molest more children, they go back into jail for longer periods of time, they get out, they molest more children. There's a continuous circle of, and then we come to the financial problem of housing all these people for the rest of their lives in jail, when we could just put a bullet in their head and save everybody a lot of money.
I don't disagree, but there are a lot of people usually on the liberal side of things that are going to argue against the death penalty for pedophiles because it's, I don't know, mean or something.
Yeah, that's why I'm an independent, because of that particular topic. When it comes to liberals, they're way off on that one.
Again, I know. I'm not trying to pigeonhole you into like some liberal basket. What I'm trying to do is, why are they wrong?
Because it creates a cycle of abuse, and these children will grow up.
Why is abuse wrong? Why is abuse of humans in particular wrong?
Sexual abuse of children is wrong because it unlocks a person's mind into areas that should not be unlocked until after puberty.
What's wrong with doing that?
Have you ever seen the effects of what happens to people when they're molested as children?
Yeah, it's distasteful to me, but why is it wrong?
Okay. Because of the damage that it causes, the consequences that are incurred.
I understand. This is the same answer worded a couple different ways. Why is that damage wrong?
I never said it was wrong.
Is it wrong?
It comes with consequences.
That it does.
It is not for me to decide what is wrong or what is right.
Okay.
I just look at the consequences of one's actions, and who will be affected by that. Who are the victims of one's particular actions, of a criminal's actions. So the consequences of child molestation is those children grow up to be sexually primed, and seeking more of that gratification, and finding it one of two ways, either becoming child molesters themselves, or turning it inward, and it always leads to these predictable consequences. So
I understand that those consequences are distasteful for you, but that's as far as it goes, right? Just distaste. I don't like it, but it's not wrong.
It's not a matter. It's not a matter of being right or wrong or distasteful. It's more about driving a person towards the direction that they're not ready for in life yet.
Okay. All right.
So you can't poke holes in that one. Okay, good.
It's not about poking holes in it. That's that's not the purpose of the clip. Because I think that your worldview is perfectly consistent, just ludicrous. That's different.
I would agree. I would say ditto emphatically that your world point of view is very common but ludicrous. We can both agree on that.
Well, I said consistent, not common.
Well, consistent, common.
Nah,
we're going the same direction.
You're consistent. Like, you hold internally to it. It's just like,
and so do you. And your Christianity spiel is very common. It's very consistent with the status quo of Christianity. I mean,
it's just sometimes the best way to show like how insane something is to just like have a person elaborate on it.